Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be using a Big Baddie from TIPSY Magnolia this is a Big Baddie 2.0, sorry, from TIPSY Magnolia, and some Uvdtf florals from Southern Belle Glitter to create a fall masterpiece. The spray paints that I used were obviously horrible out here in the storm that we're having. I really need to get some more of the cauldron colors from Adhesive Apothecary. Oops, sorry, hit the camera, but I left this outside, so it looks terrible. But here are the two colors that I used to spray paint our base. It would be wonderful to have the whole Adhesive Apothecary collection. That way I'm not ever going outside to spray paint, but here we are. So we did a collab with Southern Belle Glitter, and this is some of the gorgeous florals for fall that just released recently. These are 11.5 by 11.5 sheets, and the wonderful thing about Uvdtf is that you can put it on anything and it doesn't have to be sealed. So one of the complaints, or not necessarily complaint, but feedback that I've got using, sorry, I have my respirator on because I have mixed epoxy for our glitter. But one of the things that I have got feedback on is that the prices for the full sheet Uvdtfs are a little higher than a, let's say, sheet of vinyl decals. Well, Southern Belle Glitter does use very high quality ink for their Uvdtfs. There's 2 layers of varnish on top rather than just one, so it is more durable to scratches, you know, just the typical wear and tear that you get on pumps that you handle every day. So it will be more resistant to that. And then you also have to factor in that those decals can be used on anything. You do not have to put a layer of epoxy on it. So for instance, this is some of our Uvdtfs. I don't have to seal this in. And scratch resistant. And these are permanent decals. So you're not just getting something that you can use on epoxy tumblers or under epoxy on those type of projects. You're getting decals that you can use on any smooth surface that does not have to be sealed. We are going to give some of these away. I will be posting in our Brittany Barnes Boutique Tumbler art group. I don't want to alert the scammers on our YouTube channel or on my Facebook page, so it will be in our private Brittany Barnes Boutique Tumbler art Facebook group. Make sure you are part of it. If you are seeing this tutorial after the giveaway has ended, we do giveaways in there quite often, so be sure you do join, even if it's after our giveaway. But we will be doing, I believe, a total of 4 bundles, 2 being our most recent fall floral bundle. And then we will be giving away 2 of our Christmas themed rub-on transfers from Southern Belle Glitter. So make sure you're in Brittany Barnes Boutique Tumbler art group if you want some freebies, because we're giving some away, okay? So I have used for this Big Baddie about 2 to 3 milliliters of a little extra incorporated epoxy. Get our paper out, and we are going to go in first. Look at how beautiful this is. Smitten. Gorgeous glitter. So we're going to go in first with Smitten right here in the middle. Once we have this blended out, then we will go in with Black Cherry, both being from Chase Creations. So I'm just going to kind of find my center point and go pretty heavy. Try not to make a mess. But I'm going to go pretty heavy right here in the middle. And then since we have this curve that's not going to allow it to fall really nicely, I am going to just sprinkle my ombre down on this side. So let me go ahead and tilt it up. I'm going to allow that to just fall towards the top. Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. I almost just want to do the whole cup in this, but I do want a little bit of color contrast, so let's resist the urge. Now for down here, I'm just going to sprinkle it, because if I try to go over that curve like I just did with that top side, it's going to make a hot mess. It's going to skip over this curve. Let's try to blend it out this way, just by putting less and less as we go down. Now that we're past that curve, I can kind of tilt it and work that way. Let's see. Sometimes it's hard to see under these bright lights. Oops. Okay. I do believe that is good. Maybe not. Okay, so now that we have this on here, I'm going to knock off any excess so we're not contaminating the glitter that we're about to put on. I should have a glove on, but I'm just going to go right here in this thick part, because I don't want any of this to fall off. Into our other glitter color. Just put a glove on before you do this. I'm going in the area that's thick, so I'm not getting any epoxy on my hands, but just in case. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay. Black Cherry. Now with Black Cherry, we're just going to dump this in. Oh, look at it. Okay. Now I'm going to go all the way up to almost our center point, because once this is dry, I'm just going to brush off the excess, and then it'll kind of reveal the really good blending. Actually, go all through here. Just going to cover the whole thing. That way, if we did miss any spots, we're getting them now. Because this does have some finer cuts in it than what Smitten did. So we'll just go ahead and get any gaps covered if there is any. All right, resist the urge to shake it off before we put our black cherry back so we don't contaminate it with Smitten. Okay, so what we're going to do, it's kind of, let me get a glove, actually. Okay, we are going to pat our glitter flat. Make sure you don't rub it, you're patting it. Normally, I would roll this up in a sheet of paper to flatten the glitter out, but since we do have a curve and then we have the prongs, that's just not going to work very good. So I'm just going to tap all over. And then once I have done this, I'm going to allow it to dry for about 2 to 3 hours. This is a little extra incorporated turbo epoxy. It dries in about 2 to 3 hours, depending on the climate and temperature. And let's get some of that glitter off of there. I meant to take those off, but of course I didn't. We'll come back in 2 to 3 hours, and then I will use a tip brush to brush off all of this excess. And we'll be able to see our center color a lot better. So now that I'm finished with that, we can knock it off once more and then just let it dry. Turned out beautiful. I had a crazy amount of repelling on the first coat of this one. I have no idea what happened, but we got it straightened out. She's just a little thicker than usual, and that's okay. That is okay. These decals are gonna look so good. I'm going to use the circle decal. Now, any of the circles that I include on these collab sheets, whether it be Southern Belle or Gracefully Created, I always make the center of them anywhere from 3 inches to like 3.75, because normally our standard decal size is 3.5 inches. So I make it to where you can put a 3.5 inch name or phrase or whatever in the center of them. So we're going to go ahead and put this on first. We're going to line it up on the front side. Like so. Now, these Uvdtfs are not quite as forgiving as vinyl. So you want to make sure that you do
spend a little bit of extra time getting these in the exact place that you want them, because you won't be able to lift it up once it is in place. Which I know makes it just a little bit tedious, but after you do a couple of them, you get used to using the Uvdtfs. And I think they're very similar to the rub-on transfers from Southern Belle Glitter. So if you have used the rub-on transfers from Southern Belle, I've used them a ton in the past, then you will be a pro at Uvdtfs. They're very similar. Oh no. I don't know why there's residue coming behind that. We'll have to get that off before we add on our decal. Sheesh. Well, she's pretty though. All right, I'm gonna go remove this. I will probably use acetone with a Q-tip to get this off here. Goo Gone works really good too to get any residue off, but then you have to really wash your cup with some Dawn detergent to get the residue of the Goo Gone off. That way your epoxy don't repel. So we will use acetone and a Q-tip to get this residue off, and then we'll be back to add on. Actually, let's go ahead and add on the other decals just in case I get any residue behind on those two. Let's see. I don't know. I think we can put this one on here about like this. I should, since we have these little thin lines, I should be able to kind of manipulate these over the edge. So let's center this up. Okay. And then I'm going to start from the top on this one. Angle it a little bit. Let's see if we can do this. We can do it. don't stick. I'm just trimming right through all of these clear parts. That way it frees up these to be a little more flexible. In the areas we need them to be flexible. If we were using vinyl, we could apply heat to help them curve and manipulate them just a little bit, but UVDTF is just a little bit different. It's thicker. I have never actually applied heat to UVDTFs, but I don't imagine that that would work very well. No, come back up. Thank you. Trim you right here. So I'm going to cut right into this along one of these flower petals. That way it looks like it's supposed to be that way. We know it's not, but... And I'm being very careful because I don't want this to stick to my scissors. Let's press this part down. Then we'll have to lift up this piece so we can press this one down on top. We should have got that really nice over this curve. Just a little extra work, that's all. What is up with this residue? Usually I do not get any residue left behind on these UVDTFs, especially from Southern Belle, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. This is not even wanting to stick. struggle, guys. This is not... Okay, so that was my fault. Okay. So I didn't lift the vinyl up before I layered that on top of each other, and peeled off with my vinyl. Gosh darn it. Think. Let's see if we can very carefully remove some of this. So I'm cutting around this last petal to try to remove the leaf that we butchered. And I'm going to attempt to put another leaf on here to cover up our whoop spot. Oh my goodness. And I usually do not try to cover things up like this unless I know that it's gonna look like it never happened. I've seen so many in the past, maybe not so much as I used to, but people would complain about bubbles in their epoxy, and everyone would say, oh, well, just use some mica in your final layer and it will make it sparkle and cover up the bubbles. Or if your decal messed up, just throw some glitter in the spots that it messed up or something. I don't know. And you can very well tell that mistakes were covered up. I'm not like that. If this does not work and it does not look good, then I am just going to completely remove this decal. I'll sand this back side of the cup, give it a layer of epoxy, and then go from there. I would not pay, I don't know how much Stanley cups are, $80 for a Stanley that I could tell that they covered up a bad paint job on. So if I sell this, I don't want, or if I took custom orders, I would not want anyone to be able to tell that I covered up a mistake. Let's find the best solution here. So we have these two little flowers that I think would look nice that we could put coming out this way. I think if I put a leaf there, it's just going to kind of stick out like a sore thumb because it's not going to blend well or go in behind our decal like this one was. So if we put these coming off from right here, that will look nice. I'm just going to cut where it meets with this leaf and where it would go in behind this one. Now I'm nervous. Get real close and personal. Oh, okay, I'm happy with that. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh shoot, I forgot that was curved. It's okay, y'all can tell me to get it together, because obviously I don't have it together. A lot of manipulating going on this one. A lot. Now, I put tension on this to pull it down to go along with the curve, which of course caused some bubble in here because you can't really curve DTFs, Uvdtf. So I'm going to cut a slit right in along with the edge of these. That way it will overlap and cover those spots up. There we go. And I think I'm done with that one, aside from adding some wording in here. But before we do that, I need to remove all of this residue. I've got quite a bit all over this one. So I'm going to use some acetone on a Q-tip to remove that residue, and then we're going to find a decal and we will be back to add it on. Hunting on Creative Fabrica and found an SVG that I really liked. Thankful. I don't know, it felt right because with all of the devastation going on and things, it really makes you think twice about all of the things that you do have that you need to be grateful for, thankful for. So this is what we're going with. It really does. Even with us being without power for a week, it just really brings things to light of all that you do have and that we take for granted every day until we don't have it. So, this is going to be a very difficult one to layer because I have basically just did a hairline offset. This is a 0.025 offset. I just want it to look like that teeny tiny little white offset that's going around our flowers, which, by the way, I was upset about having to remove that residue, and it got really hot in this area last week, and I can guarantee that because it was like 80 degrees plus in my craft space because our power was out, that is the reason that I had some residue left behind. But I did want to let you know that, of course, curiosity killed the cat, but it didn't me. So I did take acetone to all of the areas that seemed to have residue, and I got curious to see if these would withstand the acetone, and they did. So I was able to just wipe off all around the edges and get any of that residue off and not even have to work around any of our Uvdtfs. It did not phase it whatsoever. Really good quality Uvdtfs. So, but yes, this is going to be a difficult one to layer. So I'm going to break out the light board for this one, and I'm actually going to leave this in behind my light board. That way, maybe it'll kind of, well, I don't think that darkens it up at all, but hopefully that will help us. Hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead and rub this down and release it from this back, so it will be easy for us. Then we're going to put it on our white. Trim off some of this excess. Now this decal is 3.65 inches wide, just to give you reference if you put something on the same circle. So 3.65. I don't know that I'm going to be able to see this that good. Might have to turn our lights out. Hold on. Okay. Forgot that my light board was connected to my big ring light. It has USB plug-ins in the back of it. Okay, now we can see it. And like I said, this offset is barely even going to be there. In some spots, you might not even actually be able to see it. I just wanted it to make this pop. held my breath long enough. Oh, yes. Perfect, perfect. That's what I want to do. So you can barely see it. Now let's do this again. This one is much bigger. This is a 0.045 offset. So I took the original image, put it in design space. I created a 0.025 offset for that hairline, and then created a 0.045 offset of the original offset. Get all of our lights, camera action back on here. And figure out which way we want to put this. I don't think I'm going to put it straight across. We might, but I don't know. No, we're going to go a little crooked, just to go with the whimsical kind of thing. But there's like a little opening here and one here, and that's how we're going to place it. Just kind of center it up a little bit. Yes. So this is the gold, not rose gold or vintage gold. This is the gold textured TECKWRAP craft vinyl. The white offset is the pearl white. And then the back, I believe, is burgundy holographic chrome. Love it. And now she's ready for her final layer of epoxy.
So I have a big old cup of a little extra incorporated turbo epoxy mixed up. I'll get this on here. I know you hear it all the time, every time I use a little extra incorporated epoxy, but I absolutely love this epoxy, especially their turbo, for literally anything, because their fast set epoxy does have a longer work time than any other fast set epoxy that I have worked with. So you have lots of time to do not only what you're working on, you can use it for Milky Ways, for trays. I've used it in some shallow molds. Can use it on projects that I have to heat the epoxy, like beach waves, like I said, the Milky Ways, or multiple cups at once. I've mixed over 200 milliliters of their fast set before, and still had more than enough time to epoxy everything that I was working on and torch before it began to set up. However, it still cures within 2 to 3 hours, depending on your environment. So pretty darn awesome epoxy, not to even mention that the shine is incredible. It still looks wet when it's dry. And it takes a very short burst of flame from a torch to get rid of any micro bubbles. You don't have to worry about mixing slow, using a machine to remove the bubbles. Nothing. It is a fantastic epoxy.
We do need another coat of epoxy still, so I'll pop that handle back off and sand and give this a final coat of epoxy. I used a Big Betty original handle and lid on this one. I did intend on using the 2.0 and it was this color, but the lightness of the handle just really didn't go with the cup, so we reverted back to our original Big Betty handle and lid, and I think she looks great. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below for me and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. All materials that we have used will be listed down in the description. Hope that y'all have enjoyed this tutorial and maybe learned a little something new. That is all for today. They hear my voice. That is all for today. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.